Okay, we'll call the Tuesday, November 28th Select Board meeting to order. One of the agenda items, a discussion of the traffic report for 49 South Main Street and 18 Boston Street. We're going to put off till the next meeting so our peer reviewers can review the traffic study that Lars that's doing the project provided. So that'll be moved up to the next meeting. We have a couple of warrants, one warrant 2411.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Warrant 2411's dated November 30th, 2023. You'll see on the payroll side of things, we had a total of $808,348. It's just worth noting that Mel, Police, and Fire had some overtime woven throughout that. On the bills payable side of things, it totaled $1,267,061. You'll see a little over $1,000 for the purchase of an ice rescue sled, which was an annual town meeting item. Been chipping away at those, and also about a $33,000 expense for the library meeting room for technology upgrades and repairs. As you did reference, there was initially, we thought, an additional facilities project warrant, FP 30, but we withdrew it. It's actually, we're recutting a check that got lost in the mail.
Any questions from any board members?
Move
I
to
do
accept.
not.
Move to accept as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Justin, your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be emailing further updated report because I realize it's not sitting in my files right now, but I do want to make reference first to congratulate Eileen Twiss, our town clerk, who officially got her clerk certification from the state. It's a pretty significant accomplishment. And also Police Chief Sampson, who was appointed as the Sergeant at Arms for the Mass Chiefs Association. So two big accomplishments among our staff, and I'll be sure to forward the full document after this meeting.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah, thank you.
Any questions for Justin from any board members?
I do not. Congratulations to both.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to jump down a little bit because we have the classification hearing scheduled for 6:30. So why don't we go down to, we'll go to, any public comment? I don't see any. Okay, I think we'll, if Sarah, if you're ready, maybe we'll take your report now.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for having me. So today I'm going to go over my 2024 quarter one report for our general fund, CPA funds, and enterprise funds. Starting off, most of our first quarter benchmark should be spending and revenue is around 25%, a quarter of the year thus far. As far as general fund expenditures go, we are at 24.7% expended, which is just under the benchmark, within the range. There are only a couple departments that we have as general exceptions to this benchmark, because most of the spending either happens at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, which would be our Recreation Commission, debt service, retirement assessment, and our liability insurance. Those ones we do typically see more than 25%, which is exactly how they are trending. One comment too, as far as expenditures go, the top paragraph on page 2, that information in there, it's not accurate. I didn't update it correctly, so I apologize for that. The fire department is not in excess of 25% this year because of repairs and maintenance. I apologize for that typo. All of our departments are actually below the 25% benchmark.
We knew that from the last meeting.
Yes.
When the fire chief was here and he said everything was on track.
Everything was on track, so I apologize for that to the fire chief. I did not mean to call him out inadvertently. I will say the average for all departments is actually around 21% because there are some departments or smaller boards and commissions that haven't had any meetings yet this year, so they are at 0 for those items. As far as encumbrances go, as of September 30th, we were at 92.5% expended. As of this warrant, the library repairs to the media center, which was an encumbrance from last year, we had gone into contract with them back in May to get the project going. That was finally completed and the bill was paid. So there's just a couple of small straggler items that may end up being spent or may end up being closing out at the end of the year.
So, and the school pretty much.
School's pretty much, they haven't, their number has not changed from the total that's on page 8 of the report. They still have just over $5,000 in encumbrances left over, so they've pretty much expended all down. And from the school department, those are POs that they don't expect to spend, so that'll close out to free cash at the end of the year. Any questions on any expenditures before I move on to revenues? Okay. Oh, the other thing I wanted to make, I'm sorry, with the expenditures is on pages 6 to 7. I broke out our capital items differently. I used to squeeze them all together onto one page where you couldn't read it at all. It's still small print, but I've broken it out between general fund and then all other funds that we've approved for capital items to make it easier to see the differences and focus on general fund versus other things that we don't necessarily vote at town meeting to show a
And if
differentiation.
we close out some of the older ones, then it'll be even more legible.
Exactly. So hopefully, and I have been working with departments and reminding them to spend their articles because they did need this money for these reasons. So we don't want to go into our budget process for 25 looking at more projects to do if they're at full capacity and they don't have the bandwidth to take on more projects as well. So I have reiterated, and we are working with our departments to make sure that they're not taking on too many things and the money will just end up sitting there for years.
When we are doing, the capital budget, maybe for older warrant articles, we should have the department head re-justify that. And if they can't, close it out.
Yeah.
Yep. Is there any guidance you would like to use? Any, starting at what fiscal year?
Yeah, more than 3 years old.
Okay. More than 3? Okay, that sounds good. And then getting into our general fund revenues, I will say as of the time I did this and as of tonight, our tax rate has not been set. Tonight's meeting is part of the process in getting the tax rate set. So these are still based off of, our revenues are based off of our town meeting estimates that we did during the budget process. Some of these numbers will change and the budgets will adjust accordingly. But as of our town meeting estimates, revenue was at 29.8% of the budget. There were only 4 categories in our local receipts that were trending under the 25% benchmark. Our motor vehicle excise, which the largest commitment doesn't go out till January. Our Medicaid reimbursement, which is always the timing because it's based on a quarterly reimbursement. So our biggest one usually doesn't come until December, I think. And then also our building permits and our other licenses and permits are trending down from previous years. We're seeing less larger dollar amount permits being issued. So that's just something I'm going to keep an eye on as the year progresses and as we start to build our FY25 budgets as well. Those line items may need to come down from previous years in adjustment to what we're seeing within the development of the town. Other items, everything else is over the 25%. Rooms is already at 47% of what we budget. Our rooms actually came in the highest quarter we've ever received, the highest first quarter we've ever received. And meals is at 31% of the budget. So far, when we were setting the tax rate, only minor adjustments to our local receipts were made from our initial estimates based on how the current year is trending, as we do have some that are trending down and others that are trending up. We've kept a lot of things status quo just to see how this year kind of fleshes out before we start to build our 25 budgets. Any questions with general fund? I will say for our CPA and our enterprise funds, this year was a little bit different. CPA expenditures are at 0%, where typically we do see some. It's because the debt for the purchase of Lois Lane came off last year. So the library is the only piece of debt that the CPA is funding currently, and that's not due until October. So there's no expenses other than capital items that have happened for the CPA in the first quarter. Revenues are at 23% of the budget, which did not contain the final state match amount, which came out last week. Our state match was less than what was expected because there are a lot of large cities that have joined the CP, have adopted the CPA and are taking some of those funds. So our amount that came in was at $65,354 that we received from the state. And we've already received that money as well. As far as our enterprise funds go, our water expenditures are at about 9% of the budget, which is not unusual, as there's always a bucket of money in there for unforeseen expenses that happen throughout the year. Revenues are already at 95% of the budget due to, as I mentioned in my Q4 analysis from last year, we didn't receive the Town of Danvers' payment until July. So we'll have 2 payments in FY24. One of them was FY23's payment. And we are working with the Town of Danvers on our IMA for the timing of when those payments happen in the future to hopefully avoid that issue going forward. SESD, our sewer enterprise fund expenditures are right where they should be. That's basically all that is the assessment that we get from SESD on a quarterly basis. And revenues are at 0. There were not a lot of large outstanding items from last year, so no payments have come in. We have issued interest on those amounts in order to get people to hopefully come and pay those bills. And the first commitment does go out till October, so we haven't received as of September 30th any of that new revenue for that year. The only other item in my packet that I would like to point out that's different from what we typically see is on page 10. You'll see there's only 3 revolving funds now, where we used to have 5. That's reflective of the 2 revolving funds that we closed at town meeting in May. So the only ones we still have are the recreation revolving, our COA trip fund, and the stormwater management fund. The other 2 items, now the revenue that comes in for those are general fund revenues versus being separate from the revolving fund. Does anyone have any other questions or comments for me?
I do not.
Yep.
No?
No, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Sarah, thank you, great job.
Looks like
Thank
we're in
you.
good shape, right?
Yes, we're right on track to where we should be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna move down to, I'll move down to the flag policy review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We received a correspondence over the weekend from a group requesting that we fly a flag. It's something that's been not terribly uncommon over the past few years. And so out of an abundance of caution, I did reach out to legal counsel and I spoke with our town clerk just to see if we had an existing policy on file where this group potentially may not be meeting until late December. I didn't want to have to wait until that long for this board to meet, for me to respond to that group. And so we, in conjunction with legal counsel, put together a policy that I distributed yesterday. We amended the agenda because of the need for a quick turnaround. And it's the recommendation that it be the town's policy that we use flagpoles on town property or at town events exclusively to fly the American flag, the state flag, or the town flag, or any member of the armed forces flag, including prisoner of war, missing in action. And that way, it doesn't put you in a bind between, picking or choosing, who would or would not be approved. So that language was distributed yesterday. I hope you all had an opportunity to review it. I don't know if there's any notes you'd like to add to it, or if it's something that you'd like to potentially vote to implement, but I'm open to any feedback.
I think those are the right flags to be permitted to fly, on town-owned property. I don't think, we should be getting in situations, of, sort of picking sides on controversies beyond our town borders.
I agree.
Agree 100%.
Yeah, I agree, more than appropriate. And
I think the policy should be implemented. I'm willing to take a vote tonight.
And this would include the library, town hall, police station?
Every town building excluding school buildings.
Good.
And are there any, there are flagpoles on the school property? And do they have a policy?
Not that I'm aware of, but what I'll do as part of my follow-up, if the board votes tonight to implement this, I'll pass a copy on to be filed in the town clerk's office, but I'll also pass a copy on to our partners over at the schools, just so that they're aware of it, and if they don't have something on the books, maybe they can implement it if they have an appetite to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
They have a meeting tomorrow night, don't they?
Do you have a printed copy?
I think that's the regional high
Thanks for
school
getting this
does.
up front, getting it out of the way.
I can read it into the, oh, I have it here. So, why don't we, I'll read it, I'll read the full policy.
Sure.
So, Town of Middleton flag policy, purpose. This policy provides guidelines for the town's flying or presenting on Town of Middleton-owned properties the flag of the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the Town of Middleton, as well as any other governmental flag, including but not limited to that of the armed forces. The choice by the town of which flag to raise on town-owned properties is hereby declared to be government speech communicating a message to the public to which the strictures of the First Amendment do not apply. The town presently does not, nor does it intend to designate the flying of flags on town-owned properties as a public forum by permitting a non-governmental party to raise a particular flag. The adoption of this policy should not be interpreted as designated any town-owned properties as a public forum for flying flags. This policy does not apply to the public schools of Middleton or the properties that they control thereby. Policy, the select board or the town administrator as its designee to ensure the proper execution of this policy as it may be amended in the future by the select board in its sole discretion. The flying or presentation of flags other than the ones stated above, such as ceremonial flags, are not intended to create or serve as a forum for free expression by the public as stated above. Nothing in this policy should be construed to restrict in any way or limit the display of flags displayed on privately held cemetery plots consistent with cemetery regulations. So that is the proposed flag policy. So is there a motion to adopt this?
I'll make a motion as written.
Second?
Okay, any discussion, any comments before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Aye.
this will be effective right now, right?
Immediately. Yep.
Immediately.
Immediately.
Thank you.
Okay. And we have,
One, keep going down
Yeah.
the list.
okay,
Yeah, like the donations and
yeah,
stuff.
why don't we take the donations while we're waiting to start the classification hearing? So we have some gifts and donations. We have $2,500 from James Vining for the Middleton Food Pantry. Is anyone here? No? Just vote to accept. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion to accept
Second.
with thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much to them. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 2,500 from James Vining for the Council on Aging.
Motion to accept.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, yeah, aye. And $1,000 from the Jeff and Carol Kirby Foundation.
Motion to accept.
In a second.
Second.
And all,
Thank you very much.
so we have, Brad for the classification hearing, but we also have a department head update. Do you have any updates, Brad, not pertaining to the classification hearing that, or do you want
I've already addressed a lot of those things in the letter that I submitted.
Okay.
I think item 12, Mr. Chair, if you're looking for more things that you can.
Okay, yeah, so acceptance of the fiscal year '24 Community One-Stop Grant Award? Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
You get flipped.
Yeah, we're all over the place. So included in your packet, you'll see a grant award of $75,000, the Community Planning Grant Program that we received through the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. As you're aware, as policy, we like to bring these forward to talk a little bit about the grants that we received, but also have the board vote to accept them. This one is going to be part of the rezoning overhaul that we're going to be doing. They did break it out into phases pending additional funding. I think we made reference to that a couple months ago, maybe at this point. So the additional funding has in fact rolled through. That'll go to work immediately. Katrina was in also, I think, to speak on that as well. And just a big thank you to her, Katrina O'Leary, our planner, as well as Jackie, for going through this application process sometime over the summer prior to my arrival. So another big win. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions on the grant?
I did not.
And is there like a time frame in which that has to be expended, or is that?
So we will be using it within the year. Typically, they give you, and it's in the contract form, a year to close out, but it's not unusual for them to file, if you file a request for extension, that they'll give you a little additional time.
And we're partnering this money with what again?
There- Go ahead.
Do you have that handy, or?
No, I don't.
It's the zoning bylaw consultant money
Oh.
that was approved at the town meeting by a motion off the floor by a citizen. So that zoning bylaw consultant money was $50,000. So as you'll recall, during the capital planning, this was the $75,000 anticipated other grant we might receive.
Great. Okay, so we need to accept it, correct?
Please.
Was there a motion to accept the grant?
Motion to accept?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Anything else we can take up while we wait?
6. Is the chief coming?
Yes.
Oh, so
But,
never mind.
but
You got 7 minutes.
I told them later, though.
Yeah, so then,
You want to take a brief recess, or is there any other items we should get out of the way?
Got a,
You want to do
7.
the license
They can do a
renewal?
license renewal.
Yeah.
We
can do that,
can't,
yeah.
we can't do 7 because that's a hearing too.
Oh, and it's too early?
It might just
No.
be worth a recess.
What's that?
7 is also a public hearing because it's a transfer.
Right.
7 and 8 are hearings as well
oh,
later.
it
Oh.
is too.
So,
Well, let's
Okay.
do a 10-minute.
So why don't we just take a recess till 6:30? Okay? So a recess till 6:30. We're back in session. Okay, so we have Brad, our assessor here, and we're gonna start the classification hearing, and Brad has a bunch of information to share with us.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
Firstly, I just wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention for this year. This is my first classification hearing with Justin. Welcome to this fun time.
Thank you.
In my department letter, I just wanted to point out a couple of things that, despite a few bumps this summer with technology and some staff issues, we were able to complete things in a timely manner, which I think is pretty good testament to our department being able to handle some curveballs when they happen. Kate will be doing some classes starting in the spring, or late winter, I guess. So she'll be starting on that journey with classes. There's some other information here that I can make a point of in the hearing, too, about some values. Let's see. So that's it for that. So if you want to start, you have to open the hearing?
So I'll
We do.
move that we open the tax classification hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. The role of the Select Board. The information is intended to provide the Board of Selectmen with necessary information to conduct a public hearing on the tax classification options available under Massachusetts general laws. During the Commonwealth mandated classification hearing, the Board of Selectmen must vote on the following in order to establish a tax rate: open space discount, residential exemption, small commercial exemption, and classification or shifting of the tax rate. Up on the board here, I've given you total value of the town. We've been hanging right about this percentage over the last few years. It really doesn't shift too much, right around that same percentage. I would say 20 years ago, we had a larger commercial percentage than we do now. With all the residential construction, it's gone towards that direction. Some interesting statistics this year. The total taxable value of the town has increased 13% to over $3 billion, currently at 3.193, first time.
21 years ago, at this classification hearing, the taxable value went over 1 billion for the first time. So in 20 years, it's tripled in value.
I thought that was a very interesting number this year. The average single-family value, assessed value, is $935,466, a 15.7% increase from last year's average of $808. As I noted in my letter, that Topsfield, the average value is $868. We have eclipsed Topsfield yet again, last couple of years. We're trailing Boxford at $952. And despite all that, our projected average tax bill will be less than those two towns. So, there was some other stats in there. Let's see. Yeah, the median family value, which is not always the best thing to look at. The average condo assessment was $539 last year. It's up to $590. Less of an increase in the single families. We have half as many condos as homes in this town now, so it's a pretty big segment of the market, if you will. Despite our average value going up almost 16%, the average so far in Essex County has been about 12. So some communities have been less, some have been more. I know what North Reading was, you didn't go up as much, but your average value is less than.
Just under 10.
Yep. Some communities, there was one that was pretty high so far. Which one was it? It was North Andover at 15%, and I think Manchester at almost 15%. So there is some ones that are greater than Middleton. When I'm done with this chart that I do every year, when everybody gets done, I'll send it out to you guys so you can see the Essex County impact. So, open space discount. Open space is land maintained in an open or natural condition which contributes significantly to the to the benefit and enjoyment of the public, and which is not subject to a permanent conservation restriction, held for the production of income, or taxable under the provisions of Chapter 61, 61A, or 61B. The Board of Selectmen may discount up to 25% of the open space share of taxes. Of the 351 communities in Massachusetts, 12 classify open space, 2 in Essex County. The Board of Assessors has determined that Middleton does not have any eligible open space land. Most large parcels are in a chapter program. Do you want to take the vote as we go?
Ask for any public comment on that issue.
Yes.
So is there any public comment on just the
Open space.
open space discount? Okay, seeing none, any board discussion on it?
I'll move to set the open space discount at 0.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The residential exemption. The Board of Selectmen may adopt an exemption of up to 35% to shift the residential class tax burden from lower assessed properties that are the principal residence of a taxpayer to higher assessed properties and properties that are not the principal residence of a taxpayer. There are 18 communities that currently do this. Most of them are either in large cities where they're trying to, where they have a lot of non-owner occupied properties, and seaside communities with large rental or second home inventory.
Any public comment on that? Any board discussion?
I'll move that we set the residential exemption at 0.
Second.
I just do have a comment. There's a lot of people that own homes in Middleton, and they own homes in states that have no income or low income tax, Texas, Florida, and so they're not, and they become Florida or Texas residents, but they still own their Middleton homes, so they're not paying into mass income tax. So there is something to be said for shifting this. I'm not saying this is the year to do it or do it right now, but there is something to be said. If you don't want to make Massachusetts your principal residence, and you're not gonna pay Massachusetts income tax, maybe you should pay a little more Massachusetts property tax. It's just an observation.
I think there would be a fair amount of research to determine who is not a resident.
Well, people declare by their tax return, but.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of work to be done there. They would all, if you really want to go down that road, if they had a second home here, they'd be subject to personal property tax on the furnishings, which is a whole nother fun avenue to go down. So just bear that in mind. If we did adopt it, there would be a lot more office work to handle
Right.
that, so.
At
just-
some point, because that's becoming more and more prevalent,
Yeah,
and at some point, it might be something worthwhile to.
Can I just add something to that? So the residential open space was really created for communities that had second homes in them for vacation homes.
Right.
So as you're saying about Florida and Texas, that may all be true. But at the end of the day, the people in Massachusetts are still paying, the ones in Middleton, are still paying their full and fair share of their tax burden to the town of Middleton. Whether they're paying their local taxes, I have to imagine, of course they are, their fair share of that. So this residential exemption isn't quite the same of what that comment was, Jeff, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
what I will submit is.
Different. It's for second homes. You live in Middleton, but you own a home on Martha's Vineyard. That's really what this was created.
If you say I am now a principal resident of Texas.
Yeah.
And you still have your house in Middleton,
Middleton.
that is your vacation, it is a vacation home,
Or
technically.
is
because if
Texas
it's-
your vacation?
Well, not if you're
Not if you're
saying,
a
not if you're
Texas
not paying mass income tax, and you're saying, I don't want to pay mass income tax anymore, and I want to become a Texas resident or a Florida resident, then it is not, it's a vacation. If you're not saying it's a vacation home, then you should be paying.
I will submit that if you are a Florida resident, you're getting a lot of tax breaks down there, the homestead exemption
Right,
and
right.
others. So you get a huge tax break down there that you're not getting here anyways, because we don't
Right.
adopt any of that stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, people are paying pretty good up here on stuff, so. Just,
Is there a?
I made the motion, Debbie seconded.
To
set
not
it at
adopt,
zero.
to not adopt it, set it at
not.
0. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Small commercial exemption. The Board of Selectmen may adopt an exemption of up to 10% to shift the commercial class tax burden from eligible parcels to ineligible parcels. Eligible parcels must be Class 3 commercial, be occupied solely by businesses with an average annual employment of 10 or under at all locations during the prior calendar year. Assessors may determine annual employment for the sole proprietorship or partnership. For all other businesses, they must rely on the determination of the Director of Labor and Workforce Development. Have an assessed valuation of $1 million or less before the application of the exemption. There are only a handful of communities that adopt this in the Commonwealth. You can see on the next page there. And the mechanics of this work similar to residential exemption. An annual application process is required confirming payroll information, so there is far more paperwork with it.
Any comments from the public on the small commercial exemption? And you believe, Brad, that we have no businesses
I don't
that
believe
would-
we've ever really qualified any.
Okay.
I'll move to set the small commercial exemption at 0.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And last but not least, our classification. An amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution endorsed by the electorate in 1978 resulted in the Classification Act. This act requires municipalities to classify real property into one of 4 classes, according to use: residential, open space, commercial, and industrial. Cities and towns that are certified as assessing property at full and fair cash value may elect to shift the tax burden among the major property classes with certain limits established by law. The adoption of different rates does not change the total property tax levy. Rather, it determines the share of the levy to be borne by each class. The share of the levy raised by the commercial industrial classes and personal property may be increased 50% as long as the residential and open space classes raise at least 65% of what they would have raised without the shift. Of 351 communities in the Commonwealth, 108 shift the tax rate. Of the 108, 66 shift over 150. In Essex County, the following communities shift their rate: Andover, Beverly, Danvers, Gloucester, Haverhill, Lawrence, Lynn, Linfield, Methuen, North Andover, Peabody, Saugus, and Swampscott. So the majority of those are large cities with very large commercial bases. Let's see. The minimum residential factor, or MRF, is established by the Commissioner of Revenue, is used to make certain that the shift of the tax burden complies with the Classification Act. If the minimum residential factor would be less than 65, the community cannot make the maximum shift and must use a CIP factor less than 1.5. In Middleton, the Select Board may shift the town's tax burden from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes as long as the shift does not exceed the minimum residential factor. Middleton's MRF for this year is 90.04. And the following pages contain the development of the MRF and the impact of any tax rate shift.
Okay, is there any public comment on shifting of the tax rate?
I just wanted to make one more point here with this. And I've discussed this with a couple of people. When we talk about shifting the rate, it's not like saving $100 you're saving on this house is not $100 going over here. It's really not a one-for-one. It's a little more complicated than that. And a quick thing today I had done was, for every dollar you increase the tax rate on the commercial rate, it reduces the residential rate by 19 cents. So that's the kind of math we're talking about here, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Chris Richardson, 5 Jersey Lane. First, I'd like to thank the board for historically voting to keep it one class, and I'm here to just speak that and ask that you consider it again this year. Some of the reasons why, as you guys are aware, about 60% of the town budget is the school systems. The commercial base has no benefit from the school systems. They don't put any kids into the school systems and have no use of the school systems. So just with that fact, I feel that they're receiving 40% of the town's services but paying 100% in return. I feel just with that fact, they are paying more than the average person's share would be. And to give you an example, I believe the elementary school budget's just below $14 million for this coming year, or finishing up this year. There's probably approximately 700 students between Fuller Meadow and Howe Manning. I did about 100 a grade. I have 4 kids through the system, so only one kid's been above 100. The rest are in the 80s or 90s. And if you do the math out, it comes to $19,800 to educate a kid to one student. Now, the average house, I think I saw it in the packet or I saw it in some information, pays $9,200 a year in real estate tax. They can't even afford one kid in the school system. The commercial base, along with others, people without kids in the school system, make up the difference on making the town what it is, the school systems what they are. My family is a complete drain on the system. I have 4 kids. If you round it up to $20,000, that'd be $80,000 in schooling that I'm receiving this year, not including any other town service that I'm receiving as well. So someone's got to make that up, and it is being made up substantially by the commercial base. And a few other just highlights I'd like to point out. I do believe the commercial base does give that town that community feeling by going above and beyond with their donations and their time. Just this weekend coming up, we got the Winter Festival, completely run by business donations. We just had the turkey trot, business donations. We had the Pumpkin Festival only a month ago, completely run by business donations. The Chief Will's Summer Festival, the same thing, run by business donations. We've had there's going to be a bunch that I miss, I know, but we have school dances sponsored by business donations. I'll pull out the list so I just try to get most of them down.
The list is long, Chris.
The list is long, I agree. If you go outside of Fuller Meadow, there's a brand-new scoreboard this past year. Not one person in town paid for it. It was donated by a business. Same with Howe Manning. The youth sports is run, there is a registration fee, but it's very low because all these businesses, if you go and look at the fields in the springtime, you'll see all those banners up. Those banners are substantial money for the businesses, but they continue to donate. Behind me, you got Innovative Waste. They pick up the trash for no cost at all the athletic fields. Before Innovative Waste came down, it used to be, I've coached in Middleton sports for quite a long time. The fields, you try to, carry in, carry out was the motto, but when you have 12 kids sitting on the bench and they all bring food and drinks and stuff, it gets in the wind blows or whatever, it gets to be a mess out there. And a business came and stepped up and said, for nothing, I will donate my services on your trash pickup. The rail trail, a lot of it is business donations as well. These are just, some of the examples. There are, like you said, Debbie, there are many more. And I feel like the commercial base is paying a minimum of their fair share, if not more than their fair share, because they're only receiving 40% of the town services. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else you had?
First of all, like he said, thank you for all the work that you do. I've been living here for about 25 years now. I'm a native of Danvers. Love this town. And I just wanted to come down and also
Could you tell us
support-
your name?
I'm
and
sorry.
address?
Anthony Mirabito, 8 Nichols Lane in Middleton. And I want to support the current classification where it's just one rate for everybody. Lifetime in finance, money's a funny thing. You might think, okay, we're helping the homeowners, and the businesses can pay for it, of course, because they can always pay for everything. But after a while, I think what people don't realize is that when somebody's looking at a property, they're looking about, all right, how much is this going to cost me every month? And if you're going to lower for the homeowners and raise it for the commercial owners, then when they start making those estimations in the future, then for the business owners, they're paying more property taxes, they're going to have less of a payment for a loan. And the homeowners are going to be paying a little less in property taxes, but they're going to have more of that X payment that they're making every month to borrow on a loan. So what happens is what you're going to see over time, I think anyway, is that the property values of the homes are going to go up faster than they would, and the property values of the commercial businesses are going to go down from where they normally would. So in a way, it's going to work itself out, because the homes are going to be taxed at a different rate, but they're going to be worth more. And the inverse is going to be true, I think, of the commercial properties. So I think if you leave it the same, and not only that, I think, in this country now, we have enough division. Everybody's pointing at somebody else and saying, hey, they can do better, I need mine. It's nice. One rate keeps it equal for everybody, keeps us all together. I'm in favor of you keeping it the way that it is. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Anybody else? No?
Larry, could you just say again, because I think it is really important, for every dollar that you increase to a business is only 19 cents.
If you add a dollar onto the commercial tax rate, it only reduces the residential by 19 cents.
Right, so to me, that's really huge in everything he said.
Jackie, can you go to
No, what's that?
the slide that shows the various shifts?
I think it was just up there.
Right up, this one. Let's just take a quick example here. The average home this year is $935, and if you shifted the tax rate 10%, you would save $200. But if you took a similar commercial property at 948, I mean, that's pretty close here for to the average home, you would increase their taxes by $1,129. So you can see that's, that's a pretty big push onto the commercial. And then, the larger you go, clearly there's some other properties there that would really get hit hard.
Right, so I
For
guess,
a small benefit on the residential side.
I think that, to me, is a big deal, and this is also keeps this small town Middleton, even though we're not a small town anymore. This is one of the few things that still keeps us a small town community, I think. Denise Perry, 50 North Liberty Street.
I was just gonna ask you, because our recording secretary is gonna be asking. I didn't get your address, so.
50 North Liberty Street.
Denise Perry.
Okay, any other from the public, any comments? Okay, any board discussion?
I'll move to maintain the one tax rate for all classes of property.
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
You're not?
I have a comment. I think that the residential residents have been asked a lot for this facilities project. They were just asked for another $10 million that was unexpected. We have a lot of big corporate-owned commercial property, CVS's, Walgreens. We have the gas pipeline, which is taxed as commercial property, which is the same pipeline that goes through Danvers. We have the same CVS, pretty much, that Danvers has, and Peabody, the same Walgreens. I think I think with this big project, municipal facilities project, I would be in favor of a small shift, not a 1.5 shift, but just a small shift, just to take the burden off the homeowners a little bit in Middleton.
All of the expenses you referenced, the businesses are also paying, their share. And so I think, it comes down, for me, it's always come down to a matter of fairness. The system, is designed to, if your property is of certain value, you pay a certain tax, and that rate should be the same on all classes of property unless you can demonstrate that a class of property is getting more than its fair share of services. And as Chris, said, the businesses don't contribute to the school system and don't, to the expenses of the school system, don't derive any benefit from the school system. So it's, in fairness, I think, we need to, continue with the one tax rate. So that's always been my reasoning.
Could I add something?
Sure, of course.
Jackie, can we go back to the pie? I think it was page 2. Yes, perfect. So I'm probably gonna outdate myself right now with this comment, but I'm gonna go there. Back in the day, I want to say probably late 70s, early 80s, there used to be a rule of thumb that was handed down to assessing offices and to the select board that you could not shift your rate unless the commercial was right around 30% of your tax levy. If we look at this pie, we are nowhere near 30%. If you take your commercial, your industrial, and your personal property and add those up, we're not even at 13. I can't see those numbers from here, so I don't think I can. I'm remembering.
We're
So
at
we're
16% this year.
16?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad. That being said, we're not there. And with everything Costa said, and everything the commercial does for the town of Middleton, I am in favor of maintaining the single tax rate as well.
There was only one year that it was 30%, and that was 1995. And then it started trending, obviously, the other way. So.
Okay, any other comments? No? Okay, so we have a motion to keep it at a single rate, I believe, right?
Yes.
It was seconded.
Costa, Rick, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote no. Okay, so we'll made a single rate.
Just want to take an opportunity to thank the board and their staff for their efforts during the year and the intercooperation of other departments.
Okay, so we need to close the hearing, right? Do we need a motion to close the hearing?
Move to close the tax classification hearing.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you. Good job, Brad.
Thank you.
Brad. Thanks, Brad. Get Salem, the list, stuff, communities that classify.
Who's in the hall? Yes, please.
Okay, we have, oh, it doesn't go out. We have the-
Mr. Chair, the chief is here if you want to.
Is he here?
Yeah,
Okay,
he's
I'll just
coming
wait for
in.
everybody to,
Yeah, they're
yeah.
swapping.
Does he know he's up next? Is he
He
coming?
does,
in?
he's just waiting for the outs to go in and before he comes. But he's en route.
He's waiting for the shift. I want to grab more.
There he is. All right, so next on the agenda, we have Police Chief Sampson here, and we have his recommendation for the appointment of Reserve Officer Garrett Greer. Okay.
He's full-time with the U.S. Department of Commerce, where he's a special agent. Prior to that, he was a special agent with Homeland Security. He also works part-time in the Groveland Police Department. What happened, he had done a few details in our town. He lives in North Andover, reached out to us, said he'd be interested in coming over as a reserve. I think his qualifications, his background check were impeccable, so I feel very confident recommending him to be our new reserve officer.
Garrett, how much time would you have to pick up shifts in Middleton?
I spoke to the captain, but I could probably do a shift or two a month, give or take, maybe a little more, depending on the circumstances.
Okay. I'm sure, someone with your qualifications and experience will be helpful to the department in any capacity.
Agreed.
Chief, does this fill your need now for reserves, or is this still, do you need more, or?
Well, reserves, like we talked about earlier, they're hard to come by. These are situations where we're fortunate that somebody has a full-time job that's looking to work part-time. We don't have a lot of those anymore. He was pre-certified, so we don't have to go, it came to the bridge, so he could bridge over and be certified, not having to go through a full-time academy. So we could always use more, that's why we're always looking, is when he reached out, we were happy to talk to him. But, we're still looking for a full-time to be eventually, that's what we need more of.
And how many active reserves do you have, reserve officers do you have now?
I think-
Including this one?
I think we'd have 5?
5?
5, yes.
Remember, there was a time it was like 20.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a time the reserves outnumbered the full-time.
That's correct.
Thanks for volunteering and stepping up to help us out. I appreciate it.
How many years do you have in law enforcement? And
I have 15 years federal, over 7 local as a reserve.
And how old were you when you started?
I started when I was 24, 25, 41 now, so combined about 22 years.
Rick works as a reserve. He was also supervisor of the sheriff's office for many years.
Okay, is there a motion?
So I'll move to appoint Garrett Greer as a reserve police officer for a term to end 6/30/25.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Welcome aboard, Gary.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it.
I didn't vote.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Okay, next we have a vote on the transfer of licenses from the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment LLC to AMMP Ventures LLC, doing business as the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment.
Good evening. My name's, I don't even know if I need this. My name is Tyler Hensler. I'm from Upton, Connell, and Devlin, a law firm in Boston, here representing AMMP Ventures LLC. As you said, we're here for an application for a transfer of the liquor license to be located at 216 to 220 South Main Street, Middleton, Massachusetts, where there exists already the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment. We're transferring the existing license from the current licensee, the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment LLC, to the new license holder, AMMP Ventures. With me today is Armando Perna, who is the owner of AMMP Ventures. We're not changing location, and we're keeping on the existing manager and all employees. The former owner, I'm told, is an absentee owner, not really hands-on, and basically the only change is the ownership is going to be more, hands-on in the, showing up every day here in Middleton. So a little bit on the concept, if you're not familiar. Again, not changing anything, but to recap, the business will continue operations as a golf simulator. The business has a state-of-the-art ball and club tracking technology and the best simulator programs available on the market. Space is also perfect for hosting events, corporate events, private parties, and the new owner's plan. Again, no changes to this already pretty successful concept. The statutory requirements for a transfer of license are: one, public need. Public need for this license at this location is demonstrated by the fact that it's already existed successfully for over 10 years. Further, this is a unique concept for the area, and we hope for continued success. The second is character and fitness of the applicant. Character and fitness of the applicant is strong, as they've kept on an experienced and successful team that currently already runs the place. This team, including the director of operations, staying on, and they have no violations in about 10 years. So as far as I'm concerned, none, but 10 years is all I could look back. The manager of record will remain Eric Karpinski. He's staying on. He's currently approved by this board. So the experience for the customer, that comes in before and a day after this license transfer will be exactly the same. Mr. Karpinski unfortunately had an emergency. He was planning on being here tonight. But seeing as he is already approved by this board and is staying at the same establishment, we thought it would be okay with the board. We do have an owner here, and seeing his ownership is really the only thing that's changing. We hope this is okay with the board. To recap on Eric, to tell you what you already approved one time, just to go back over it, he's a U.S. citizen, resident of Massachusetts. He's familiar with the rules and regulations regarding the sale and service of alcohol, and he has experience in the industry, as he has worked as a GM and the director of operations at the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment since 2014. And again, he's currently approved by this board and the ABCC and has no violations, so clean record. Finally, the business is being purchased: simulators, game systems, furniture, liquor license, everything. So the whole business, not just the liquor license. This is all for $800,000. $80,000 of this is coming from the personal funds of the two owners, 50-50 owners, Michael Montalto and Armando, and $720,000. The rest is coming from a loan from the savings bank. There's therefore a pledge of license associated with that loan. Before I conclude, I'd like to thank Deb and Jackie. They've been extremely helpful putting this all together. So thank you for your time. We're happy to answer any questions.
Are there any tweaks to the business plan to increase the volume of business and make more money for the new owner?
Well, Armando could speak to the specifics, but I'm told that no substantial changes are planned in the immediate future. Maybe some updated, TVs that might have the Golf Channel logo burned into the bottom right-hand corner. But other than that, nothing planned at this time.
Right. If you had any plans, people do watch this, and you give you some free advertising. Okay. I don't have anything else.
Anything, any questions?
I do not.
How long had you been over there so far?
The transfer has not gone through yet.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
didn't know
so
if he was
we're
working.
here to apply for the transfer. But the current operator's been there. I'm told, I stopped out by there beforehand and to get a look at it, 2012 or 2013, but I'm not sure. But over 10 years.
I thought he'd worked there throughout, sorry.
Okay, so a motion from anybody?
So I'll move to approve the transfer of liquor, common vic, and entertainment licenses for the clubhouse from the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment LLC to AMMP Ventures LLC, DBA the Clubhouse Golf and Entertainment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a vote of the change of officer, director, and transfer of stock from Mahan Corp. DBA Dave's Liquors, to, do we have to the, I don't see the agenda, the transfer to, Justin, do you have it right there?
My apologies.
Dave's Liquors transferred to, what's the new entity?
It's staying Dave's Liquors. It's just a stock transfer.
Okay, same,
Yeah, it's so.
okay,
I'll explain.
okay, good.
Good evening, Attorney John Moradian, Democus Law Offices. With me is Samir Kumar Patel. We're here tonight for two requests to the license, to amend the license for Maheen Corporation doing business as Dave Liquors. One is a change of officer and director. We want to remove Kailash Patel as the vice president and director. And two, with a stock transfer. Samir is purchasing Kailash Patel's 10% interest in the license, so he'll be the sole stockholder and sole officer and director of the corporation. He's currently the manager of record. He bought the store end of August, early September. He's been operating there since then. Clean record so far. Just a license amendment to take out a shareholder and take out an officer and director.
Understood. Any questions from anyone?
Nope.
No? Pretty routine, I think. Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept the change of officer director and transfer of stock from Mahan Corp., DBA Dave's Liquors.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
Now we have a vote on the annual license renewals, I guess the ones that we have so far, right?
Correct.
Jackie did quite a few of them come in on time. I know we've had a problem in the
I have the
past.
statistics if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely,
Okay,
yeah.
so you have all of the folks that are included in your packet tonight. That means, so for a business to be included in your packet tonight, that meant that as of midweek last week, they had to be completely submitted with us, paid, up to date on their taxes, building and fire inspections complete, all good to go. So that list of businesses is in the packet for tonight for your vote. Out of the pending 42 licenses, which we classify by the business, and they might have multiple within that, but just 42 businesses. 18 have submitted all their paperwork and are just pending their scheduled inspection.
Okay.
9 are going to be ready at least for your December 5th licensing only meeting when we have that. 3 have submitted most of their documents, but not all. 12 have turned in nothing at all, but about half of the 12 have at least spoken with Deb, acknowledged receipt. We're doing some work tomorrow, making some calls and doing some additional email. We've already done 2 major email communications, which we do require people to communicate with us via email, so we have the documentation. And of the 12 that have liquor licenses, we're going to be calling them tomorrow. So I will say, if anyone's watching, if you are a liquor license and haven't submitted your ABCC form to us, those are required by this Thursday, November 30th. Otherwise, we have to treat you as a new license again. So for those liquor licensees that have not seen us yet, please do come in, but we're going to be doing a lot of follow-up with them tomorrow and Thursday, hopefully to get them in before the deadline. But really good progress.
Of the ones other than liquor, do you, if you email a couple of times and don't get a response, do you try and follow up with a phone call, or?
We will in December. The liquor have to be done by November 30th, but the rest we'll start to do.
Calls?
Yeah, probably next week.
So, I know, last year, it had a lot of, issues with, people doing their paperwork, doing their, inspections. we ended up, having, emergency meetings to approve, at the end of December. Let people know we're meeting December 19th, and there's no guarantee if they're not ready that they will get approved before the year end.
Well, not only have we been informing them of that meeting date, that's the day, we also, on this Friday, December 1st, the fees go up. So anyone that does not submit by this Thursday on our website for any of the licenses, for common vic or liquor, that fee goes up on the Unibank website in the system overnight, Thursday into Friday. So they will be subject to their first series of fines this coming Friday if they're not submitted and paid.
Very good, thank you.
Should we read a list in of ones we're approving? Do you think, is that necessary, or?
You could just say as included in the packet published.
Okay.
But I do want to just quickly shout out to Deb Mahoney, who has done a remarkably good job this year. I know she's very appreciative of the board adding the late fees and being stricter with the parameters. But Deb Mahoney in our office, Lisa Brown in the inspectional services office, the inspectional team, Lieutenant Kessel in the fire department, and everybody that's doing that behind the scenes. That group has been a really great team this year. They've gotten a lot of work done. We're making really good progress, so it's gone really smoothly this year, and I just want to shout out those people because they're not always well received when they go into businesses. They're getting a lot of griping, so I want to give them some thanks because they do a great job with this process.
Thanks, and thanks to them.
Thanks to them, too. And you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Can we do the motor vehicle one separate, because I'm gonna recuse from those, so can I have a motion for all the licenses on the list other than motor vehicle?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now can I have a motion?
I'll move to renew all the Class 2 licenses that are on the list.
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna abstain, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, okay.
Congrats.
And congrats to Jeff for being officially the first person to submit their application this year. I think it was 20 minutes after the email went out. So, like, gold star for leading by example.
Great example.
I think we've covered everything other than updates and announcements, unless anyone sees anything we missed. We bounced around. Any updates or announcements?
Just don't forget the Winter Festival, Saturday afternoon, 4:30. Film at the library, walk over to the Richardson Green, and there's be lots of food and activities, all free of charge.
Thanks. Okay, anyone else?
I do not.
Motion to adjourn?
Only
All right, we're adjourned.